Ivy and Bean, Take the Case. Book 10 by Annie Barrows and Sophie Blackhall. The Big Nab. The next morning, Bean began to do the regular things. Yawn, splash, stumble, and then she remembered the rope. Quickly, she zipped out onto her front porch to take a look. The mysterious rope tire had come again. The yellow rope stretched like a bright snake beyond Ivy's stairs and up Mr. Columby's driveway, wrapped once around his garbage can, trailed across his weed collection, and moved on to Ruby and Trevor's house, where it wound in and out of their experimental bean plants and finally came to an end at the far edge of their grass. When she saw it, Bean's heart started to thump. It grew. It was still happening. Pancake Court was a place of mystery. Then she remembered Dino's worried face, and Sophie S.'s and Prairie's and Trevor's and Ruby's. She thought, I'm supposed to solve this mystery. And then, how the heck am I going to do that? She went back inside. The rest of the regular things, cereal, banana, where's my backpack? Someone took it. Oh, here it is. Didn't seem regular. You look tired, sweetie, said her mom. Did you get enough sleep? Hardly any, said Bean. This wasn't exactly true, but it was nice when her mom worried about her. She slept, Mom. She was snorting her head off when I went to bed last night, said Nancy. I was up half the night, said Bean. She drooped tiredly. She was about to say that she was so tired she should stay home from school, when suddenly she got the idea she'd been waiting for. The perfect plan, like something Al Seven himself might have thought up. She smiled at Nancy. Stop smiling at me, said Nancy grumpily. Sure thing, pal. It's in our yard now, said Ruby. She was chewing on her hair. In our beans, added Trevor. It's wrapped around Mr. Columby's garbage can, said Dino. He looked over his shoulder and whispered, You think it could be a zombie? Or a werewolf, said Sophie S. They all looked at Bean with worried faces. She smiled toughly. Don't be stooges, she said. Zombies don't carry ropes, and werewolves can't tie knots. They have paws. She tried to talk without moving her lips. And you should stop worrying about it because I've got a plan. A good plan. Maybe even a great plan. What? Said Dino. She said she has a plan, Ivy explained. A good plan, maybe even a great plan. Tell it, said Ruby. Trevor and Prairie and Sophie S. nodded. Bean looked around at their scared faces. It was her job to make them feel better. Okay, here's my plan. Mr. Whoever tied the rope comes in the night, right? They nodded. So, tonight, I'm going to get up in the middle of the night and wait for him. When he comes out to tie the rope, I'll nab him. What does that mean, nab? Asked Trevor. Get him, Bean said. Grab him. What if he's big and mean? Asked Sophie worriedly. Yikes, Bean thought. What if he is big and mean? I know, said Ivy. Just take a picture of him. That way, you don't have to get close to him. You can take a picture and then run back inside and lock the door. Good idea, said Bean. I'll take a picture of him. I'd do it with you, except my mom would freak, said Trevor. Ha, said Ruby. You'd freak. I would not. Who has 3 nightlights? Said Ruby. I don't have 3, yelled Trevor. I do not. After they yelled at each other for a while, Bean interrupted. It's okay, I'll do it myself. Danger makes me laugh. She hoped it would anyway. Guess I'll go to bed now, said Bean. What? Her mom looked up from her book. It's only 8. Remember, I hardly slept last night. Bean tried to droop. Oh, right, said her mom. You want me to come up and tuck you in? Bean opened her mouth wide. She hoped it looked like a yawn. "That's okay. I don't want to bother you." Her mother seemed surprised. "Wow, okay. Nighty-night." Bean went upstairs. The real reason she didn't want her mother to tuck her in was under her pillow. It was a timer shaped like a tomato. Bean didn't know how to set an alarm clock, but she did know how to set a timer. You twisted it all the way around. It would tick off an hour, and then a really loud bell would ring. That's why it was under Bean's pillow. Actually, it was under Bean's pillow, plus 2 other pillows. Bean could still hear it from under 3 pillows, but she didn't think her parents would. Bean turned out her light and jumped into bed. She needed to go to sleep right away, because she only had an hour before the timer would ring. Then she would twist it again for another hour. She would twist it 4 times, and then it would be midnight, and she would get up and go outside. Bean kicked her sheets, thinking about big and mean rope-tying people, about the timer waking her parents up, about sitting on her porch in the dark. She thought so much that when the timer rang, she had only been asleep for a few minutes. She twisted it again and went back to sleep. She twisted it again and went back to sleep. She twisted it again and went back to sleep. Danger makes them yawn. She twisted it again. "No, midnight! Time to get up!" Very quietly, Bean put on her clothes. She stood still and listened to make sure no one was awake. The only sound was her own breathing. "Danger makes me laugh," she reminded herself. But she was too tired to laugh, and anyway, if she laughed, her mom might wake up. Bean slipped out of her room and went downstairs. She stopped in her mom's office to borrow her phone, the one with the camera, and then she got the flashlight. And finally, there was nothing else to do except to go outside. In the front hallway, Bean took a deep breath. She got ready for the dark and the cold and maybe a big and mean person. Everyone else was cozy in their warm beds. Nobody knew what she was doing. She was all alone. Al 7 never seemed lonely. There was something weird about him, Bean decided. She opened the door. The porch looked regular, but the rest of Pancake Court was bluish-blackish and empty. Bean sat down on her top step and looked out over the nighttime world, with its looming dark houses and rustling dark trees. The yellow rope glowed in the light of the street lamp, from Dino's chimney to Ruby and Trevor's grass. She had made it in time. It hadn't grown, not yet. The nighttime world reminded her of Al 7's black and white world. Even though she wasn't cold, Bean shivered. It wasn't the rope. It was the alone. Click! As Bean watched, Ivy came quietly out her front door. She looked over at Bean's house and waved. Then she ran down her front stairs to the sidewalk and around Pancake Court, all the way to Bean's house. To heck with Al 7, Bean thought as she watched Ivy run. To heck with laughing at danger. To heck with being tough. Ivy was the greatest. "Hi," she whispered as Ivy came up the driveway. "How'd you get up?" "Timer," whispered Ivy, sitting down beside Bean. "Me too. Is yours a tomato?" "Nope, an egg," said Ivy. She looked at the rope. "It hasn't gotten longer." Bean scooted close to her. "I'm glad you came." "I want to see Mr. Whoever tied the rope," said Ivy. "You do? What if he's big and mean?" asked Bean. "Maybe he'll be little and nice." Bean hoped so. They did some waiting. They did some more waiting. They did some huddling. Then some more waiting. Then their tushes fell asleep. They got to their feet and did some stand-up waiting. They sat down and waited some more. Nothing happened. Bean put her head down on her knees for a while. The while stretched on. She might have closed her eyes. She opened them and looked across the street. The rope had grown again. Bright and yellow, it crossed the street and went under Jake the teenager's car, which was parked at the curb. Then it went up Jake the teenager's lawn and over his driveway and up to Kalia's mailbox. Bean nudged Ivy. "Wake up! It happened!" "I'm awake," said Ivy, even though she wasn't. She opened her eyes. "Wow," she said after a minute. "He must be pretty quiet, Mr. Whoever." "Yeah," said Bean. And Mr. Whoever was quiet. He wasn't big and mean. That was an idea that came from being scared. And being scared came from not understanding why anyone would stretch rope all over Pancake Court. Bean didn't understand why either, but she was sure now that it wasn't a mean person who had done it. Suddenly she thought maybe it wasn't even a person. Maybe it was a creature from another world. She pictured a soft thing with long, white, rubbery fingers tying knots. Then she pictured a tiny man like a gnome carrying a rope as big as he was. Then, for some reason, she pictured a rabbit in a cowboy hat with a yellow rope lasso. "It could be anything tying that rope," she said. Ivy nodded happily. "I know, isn't it great? It could be an invisible being. It could be a creature from another world," Bean said, "with long, white, rubbery fingers." "Yeah," said Ivy. Her face got dreamy. "Or maybe the rope is the creature. Maybe it's tying itself." She looked at Bean. "Like magic." Bean nodded. "Maybe it's magic." She leaned forward to look at the rope. It was either a mystery or magic. Either way was fine. "It's going to get to my house soon." "You'll have a mystery in your own front yard," said Ivy. A mystery in her own front yard, right in the middle of her PI office. "Al 7 is always wanting to solve mysteries," Bean said. "That's what I don't get about him," said Ivy. "Why does he always want to solve them? You solve problems, but a mystery isn't a problem, so why does it have to be solved?" "Sometimes it's a problem," said Bean. "This one isn't. Nobody's getting hurt or anything. It's a nice mystery." Bean nodded. It was true. The rope moved from yard to yard. It wasn't doing anything bad. It came in the night, and no one knew who did it. But that made it interesting. Ivy yawned. Yawns were catching. Bean yawned too. Ivy stood up. "I'm going home." "Okay, see you tomorrow." Bean watched until Ivy closed her door, and then she went upstairs to her own cozy bed.